All right, October 2023 Visa Bulletin is upon us. It's been released, and we're going to break it down for you today. I'm Sam Shihab with Shihab Burke, and with me,
Brian Burke from that very same place here in Dublin, Ohio, 6 o'clock Monday, where we always are, talking about immigration issues for the benefit of the people in our audience, focusing on employment-based, of course, because, it's always compelling, always exciting in that area of immigration for sure.
And USCIS just released the October badly or eagerly awaited October Visa Bulletin with dates that are kind of in line with what we were expected. There seemed to be a change a little bit in the way USCIS is being very cautious in the way they're releasing their numbers. I think they're trying to avoid the retrogression.
Yeah.
And we'll be talking about that. We're going to talk about the change in the dynamics of the Visa Bulletin and discuss the critical dates. Okay. Brian, do you have these dates for us?
Well, you see, Sam, I got so excited in our conversations before this, I forgot to go ahead and download my slides.
We can definitely talk about the final action date for first preference. It moved to January of 2017, which is a little bit of a disappointment in my opinion. And for the second preference, now it's moved up to January 1st of 2012. And then for third preference, India is May of 2012. The one thing, Brian, that is probably a surprise to me is that the...
Go ahead, put them up on the screen now.
Yeah,
the wrong presentation, the old ones.
Yeah, the second preference, rest of the world, has a date on it. For as far as I remember, we always start with a clean slate and a current EB2 rest of the world, and now we have July 8, 2022 for final action date rest of the world, Brian. This hasn't happened in a long time.
Yeah.
Which means, obviously, is the spillover for India. It's not going to happen today, this year.
Yeah.
And then obviously we have also a backlog from EB1, so the spill down from an EB1 to EB2 is not going to happen.
Oh yeah, I definitely have. Yeah. So let's talk about really what happened here broadly, because I have some highlights. Number one. The dates for filing for October 2020 is what USCIS is going to accept. So if your dates are current in terms of the dates for filing, that's where we're at. Additionally, I'm going to borrow this here, Sam.
Yeah.
Push this button, get us back on the big screen. There we are.
Yeah.
EB1. So as you mentioned, EB1 is kind of all over the place. Current for all countries, but India and China. China moved forward 2 weeks, yay. This is, again, final action dates. EB1 India moved ahead 5 years. So I will talk about, I guess you're right, it's not as much as we were expecting. If we look ahead in our notes here, the dates for filing for EB1 India were as recently as September 23, they were in 2022.
Yes.
So to us, we have always been told that the dates for filing represent, in fact, the USCIS has it in their FAQs, which we'll talk about as well, represent, amount of time when we think it's reasonable you should be taking action on your case at this time. And
for this fiscal year.
Yeah, for this fiscal year. And so basically in September they went from 2022 until dates for filing. That's where we think we're at. Which resulted in 2017 final action dates, which resulted in 2019 dates for filing right now for India EB1. Right. Pretty interesting. So they basically sort of rearranged everything in there and sort of scratched out everything they were doing on the Visa Bulletin for September 2023. So coming around to EB2, again, despite the fact that India is the most backlogged country with the highest demand, the movement is mostly there. Rest of the world, Mexico and Philippines, moved for a week. EB2 China moved about 3 months. India EB2 1 year forward in terms of final action dates.
Yeah.
Not too shabby from them. But last one, EB3. Again, so actually everything largely pretty darn good here. Rest of the world and Mexico and Philippines, about 1.5 years of movement.
Right.
India, about 1.5 years of movement. China, 4 months of movement. And you know, EB3, you'd think it's the one that everybody can, well, not everybody can qualify for, but more people are able to qualify for. You would think that would move slower, but here we are, and no, they aren't.
So in term, and I'm trying to get that screen on the right side.
I will do it for you right here.
Yeah, somehow this mouse is not working. One of the comments in the FAQ that kind of got my attention is that they're saying that they don't think that the India movement is going to be too aggressive, and they have plenty of cases in the pipeline to complete many years.
Well, see, this is where I take beef, and so I'm going to put some things on the screen here real quick that are relevant. So, you know, at the end of the Visa Bulletin, the Department of State often gives us little nuggets of commentary, right? And at the Department of State, the kings of the Visa Bulletin, the controllers of the Visa Bulletin, they say the following, which I'm going to put up on the screen. Final action dates across most employment-based visa categories have advanced, reflecting new visa numbers available for fiscal year 2024. Date advancements reflect an intention to keep visa issuance within quarterly limits in accordance with INA, et cetera, with potential advancements throughout the fiscal year. However, actual date movements will be dependent on visa band and issuance patterns throughout the fiscal year 2024. So they are saying there what we have generally ascertained from the folks who are running the Visa Bulletin now after Charles Oppenheim left, that they're looking at the quarterly interesting Visa Bulletins because that's when new visas become available. And it explicitly says here, if the demand is correct, there should be, if the demand allows it, there's potential for movement in quarters, right? So fine, that's what the Department of State says. So you referenced some FAQs, Sam, and I'm going to put them up on the screen for everybody's benefit as well. USCIS, at the same time as the Visa Bulletin came out, they also issued some FAQs relating to adjustment of status.
Right.
And I'm going to go ahead and put those on the screen if the technology will allow me to do so. Let's fix it real quick here, though.
Well, as you fix it, obviously, what you're going to be sharing with people is that here we go. Yeah. That they're saying something a little bit different.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. So got it on the monitor right here. So there's a part of an FAQ available on the USCIS website, and the question is, why have the dates in some categories in the October 2023 Visa Bulletin not advanced sufficiently to allow new applications? And here it is. USCIS and DOS have significant volumes of employment-based adjustment of status cases and immigrant visa applications in their inventories. For some categories, including EB2 and EB3 for non-citizens chargeable to India, the agencies have sufficient applications on hand to use up all the available visas for fiscal year 2024 and several fiscal years in the future. So how do you reconcile these things, Sam? USCIS says tons of cases to reconcile, to chump up these visas for the future. Department of State saying movement forward.
I think they are reconcilable.
I think so as well. I just wanted to hear your take.
Yeah, because the movement of the Visa Bulletin doesn't mean that they don't have them already filed. I mean, 2015, they have cases sitting since that date, and that's part of the problem, obviously, is that they have cases sitting for many years in advance. Yeah. They've moved the Visa Bulletin artificially so far forward, perhaps, now that they have so many sitting in the warehouse.
Yeah, so I guess what I was surprised was that, I know they have a whole bunch of cases sitting there in their government coffers, right? Enough to cover several fiscal years. I was surprised for that reason that we were able to see so much movement on the India EB2, EB3, because we know that tons of those green cards got issued during prior fiscal years with tons of visa availability. But I would presume that I know there's still a lot of people out there who didn't get visas. I would presume that it wouldn't be enough to move the Visa Bulletin 1 year. It seems fairly aggressive as I interpret it.
What about the movement of visas from family bases to employment bases?
Yeah. So in this FAQ, it's in plain sight, and I'll go put it up on the screen here for everybody's benefit. Here it is. With the start of fiscal year 2024, DOS can begin allocating employment-based visa numbers from the fiscal year 2024 limit, estimated to be 165,000. Well, there it is right there. 165,000. If the employment limit for this fiscal year is 165,000, that means there was in fact rollover from the family-based categories that went unused, which I guess, when we did an analysis of the numbers of what they were saying they were using. You
were so close, right on the money.
Well, I thought, was I really that close?
Yeah, I think so. I think you were within 20,000.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I think they had to be a little bit above average in order to get to that. And I guess they weren't.
As expected.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, but I think if they really kind of maintained the. Yeah.
You extrapolated average numbers for 3 months because they were not published.
Yeah.
And now we have them, and based on that, obviously there's spillover. But that's the good news. The bad news is that how much of that is going to go to, since most of our listeners are in the employment base, and most people in the employment base backlog are from India.
Yeah.
How much of that, Brian, is going to go to India? Not much.
Yeah.
Because the rest of the world for EB2 and the rest of the world for EB1 is backlogged.
Yeah, I guess what you're pointing out is the rollover from, in order for there to be rollover into the most backlogged country, which is going to be India for most categories, there has to be...
rest of the world current.
Yeah, the rest of the world has to be current.
So for that number to continue jumping over to the most backlogged country, well, that's not the case now.
Yeah.
EB2, rest of the world, and EB1, rest of the world, are retrogressed, and because of that, that number substantially is going to be sucked in that direction, with probably maximum of about 7% going per country, and therefore the benefit to India from the spill across is not there, unfortunately, although there is some, which is shocking that the State Department was unable to process a significant chunk of the family-based.
That is very, very surprising. I mean, because this is going back to October 2022, then essentially when the fiscal year 2023 began. And I don't know, it has seemed relatively normal at the consulates, and as we sort of we went through the visa issuance data that was available to us as of a couple weeks ago when we went through it, and it seemed possible that the consulates could actually achieve their job of getting the 220,000, I believe it is, family-based visas out the door. And there must have been just some sort of major drop-off in the last couple of months of the fiscal year, and I can't really fathom why. I guess when I look back at the numbers, maybe things are trending down a little bit towards the end of the fiscal year, with some of the peaks being a little bit earlier, but it is what it is.
Yes. All right. So in terms of question fees, are we receiving question fees?
We are receiving questions, certainly,
okay, sounds good.
sure. Tons of them.
I'm happy to answer them. EB1C, huge push in that direction. Obviously, an EB1A, which is definitely creating the pressure on EB1 applications. I think a lot of people in the employment-based second preference who are stuck are definitely trying to apply in the EB1A category. And there's a lot of people who are saying, let me go back home for 1 year to work for.
I've done one of both. I have both of those going right now. I got an EB1A for somebody who's in the multiples, I think, in the EB2 backlog, and another person who has some older kids and talked to her employer and said, hey, let's send me back to the foreign branch. She's already back on an L1. I presume we're going to be doing an EB1C in the immediate future.
Yeah, and a lot of EB1As to a huge number of EB1A. This administration has been very easy. We continue to do no-cost evaluation of these cases.
Yeah.
Right now for people that may not continue for a long time, but a lot of other attorneys may be doing something similar, because obviously a lot of people want to look at their EB1A abilities, whether they're eligible and whether they're able to file, substantially influenced by the aging out of their children.
Yeah.
And that's the big deal.
I think it's fun to talk to people about EB1A because, some of these things you can't really, either you meet them or you don't. But there's those requirements like, membership in organizations or like judging the work of others on panels in like in an academic way. And those are the sort of things that if somebody wanted to have a plan in order to start doing those things, well, they could feasibly start doing it. And that's suddenly you're a lot closer to an EB1 because there's like 3.
Those are easy.
Yeah, not easy, but doable.
Easier.
You can't. There's certain things about your life you cannot change. You can't suddenly raise your salary so it's extraordinary. But you can really get involved in academic groups related to your occupation, and those folks are usually happy to have somebody.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So with that, that's our October Visa Bulletin overview. Have we overlooked anything, Brian?
Oh, there's a few minor things that I wanted to hit upon in this USCIS FAQ. So a common question that we get here is, what about the duplicate cases, Brian? What about the duplicate I-45 cases? How are they factoring in? Is it artificially slowing down the Visa Bulletin? Can they figure it out? And USCIS has actually answered that question for us, and I'm going to go put it up on the screen right now. Yeah. Here it is from USCIS, posted on 9/15/2023. Some non-citizens, particularly in the employment-based preference categories, have multiple pending adjustment of status applications. Can USCIS identify these in its inventory, and do the agencies take these multiple applications into account when setting the dates on the Visa Bulletin? Yes. And
do you believe that? Yes or no? No. Keep going.
I will probably agree with you. Yes, we can identify multiple adjustment of status applications filed by the same non-citizen and do not take them into account when collaborating with DOS.
Do take them into account.
Do take them into account. Okay, yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Collaborating with DOS on the Visa Bulletin. In fiscal year 2023, this is the interesting part, the volume of duplicate applications within the final action dates established on the Visa Bulletin is very low and has no significant impact on the analysis. Interesting. Yeah.
Is that possible? Is that believable?
I don't know. A lot of people.
That tells me that their answer should have been no, not yes, because it looks like they're not tracking all the cases.
Okay, so you say no, and I'm going to elaborate on why you're probably saying no. It's because I sometimes am absolutely dumbfounded by USCIS. It's the classic left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. Cases will, family-based I-45s will end up in different offices. I don't believe in their ability to track multiple cases for the same person very well. I honestly, when it comes to tracking people, what category are that sort of thing, I get the impression from going to a lot of interviews that they don't know what category you're really in until they want to make a decision on your case. Mm-hmm. They say, okay, so is a visa available? And the answer's going to be, your mouse might be turned off.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that, and they figured it out right then by checking out what the Visa Bulletin says.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So, all right, sounds good, Brian. Thank you so much for this information. So, what advice do you give people with this Visa Bulletin? I mean, I have the first also comment I want to make
USCIS has some advice I still want to bring it up. There's an interesting FAQ left.
Yes. So the window, by the way, between the final action date and the filing date for EB2 is about less than 6 months. So January 1st, 2012 to May 15, 2012. So that 5 months or less window is that the progression in the visa availability that USCIS believe is going to happen this year.
Yeah.
So they believe the most forward date for this fiscal year will be May 15, 2012. Similarly, in the third preference, they believe similar movement from May to August, maybe even less in 2012. So August 1st, 2012 is the most forward movement date this year.
See,
based on
based upon what they say about the nature of dates for filing. I don't know how much they think about. I don't know how much they think about dates for filing. In fact, I want to highlight what they say here. See if I can find it here on this. Find it here in this FAQ.
As you look for it, one more thing, Brian, in the State Department Visa Bulletin, clearly indicating that they are conservative in this October Visa Bulletin, and they believe that there is a potential forward movement, some forward movement across the board on a quarterly basis, that they've not released all the numbers.
Yeah, so I guess for me, I like the dates for filing. So there's a reason why when I'm always talking about numbers during these presentations, I go for dates for filing, final action dates, because I don't trust the dates for filing, because Charles Oppenheim would say they were the prior guy who manages the Visa Bulletin said that they were an outlook of 8 to 12 or 8 to 10 months, something along those lines.
Really, a one-year outlook.
Yeah, pretty much, and it should be. Where we know what we have for the fiscal year. They don't really look beyond the current fiscal year. So I just, as a random thought from USCIS, they say in this FAQ, the final action dates charts indicate when an applicant may be scheduled for a consular interview and when their case may be processed to completion by USCIS. And that's really, the dates for filing charts indicate when an application is with a time frame justifying immediate action in the application process. So, back in September 2023, for EB1 India, they were in, I believe it was September, I have it in my notes here, September of in September 2023, they were in June of 2022 for EB1 India, right? And that meant that an application was within a time frame justifying immediate action on the application process. And now, for the October Visa Bulletin, they are back in 2019, and that's now when it justifies immediate action based upon the the future availability. It seems I'm retiring from the dates for filing.
So it's confusing, but I think what's going on here, Brian, is that there is a different approach being taken, a conservative approach. I think the idea that they don't like to deal with is this retrogression idea, and they're trying to guard against it. So there's a lot of pressure to move these dates forward.
Sure.
And then when it comes to having to manage these filings, they're not able to issue green cards. Why? Because they don't have visa availability, and then people are upset. So I think they're trying to manage it by being conservative and really following the law. The bottom line, Brian, it's simple. The bottom line is there are no visas available, okay, to meet the demand.
Sure. Well, so Sam, I fully agree. There's, the date they're actually on, maybe they're not accurate all the time in their Visa Bulletin. They are a guess. That's what the regulations or law says about this. It's their best estimate, I believe is the term that they use. Yeah. And that's fine. Well, obviously, some people would like those estimates to be a little bit more generous. Speaking of generous states and generous requests, what of that request by congressmen to the executive branch of the Department of State? Make everybody's dates current.
It's an impossible request.
Yeah.
Somebody somewhere laughed at it because, number one, it's not consistent with the law. Number two, because you ask for it doesn't mean it's legitimate or it's logical. Number two, Brian, there's no bandwidth to handle the workload.
I fully agree. So with respect to those congressmen, I always talk about this in the context of visa recapture bills that get introduced. What they are their marketing. They're somebody waving their flag around and saying they're a press release.
Well,
and that's what that was as well.
It's unfortunate because it's giving people ridiculous hope. People are feeling that there's a hope because when you are in such a dire situation, you are, and we need to answer questions, Brian.
Yeah, I know.
You feel like you want to hold on to any positive news.
Yeah.
And no matter how fake it is, and this is one of those fake requests.
Fake news.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's fake request because it's not going to happen.
Yeah, and as basically it's marketing for some Congress person essentially. Look, waving their flag of I support, support this, knowing it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So that's our Visa Bulletin. Let's jump in and take your question. Just a reminder for everybody: we don't know enough about you for you to rely on our answers to make a life-changing decision. If you're going to make an immigration decision in your case, consult with an immigration attorney of your choice before you do that. Obviously, no attorney-client relationship established because we are virtually on YouTube today talking to you. Without delay, let's take the first question from?
It's from Fort Myers.
Yep, if you can make that bigger,
I
Brian,
can make
it'd be
that
wonderful.
bigger, Sam.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, Sam and Brian. Thanks for doing this live. We always do it. Okay, occasionally we pre-record a bit of it. I need your analysis on the EB3, others, rest of the world, priority dates, November 2021. When is it going to be current? And I imagine you're thinking about the October Visa Bulletin, as I grab my October Visa Bulletin here, because I prefer working from the PDF version of it. November 2021, rest of the world. So my immediate instinct to figure out where the Visa Bulletin is going, and I'm just going to run roughshod over what I just said, Sam, is that I'm going to look to the dates for filing. At least for this fiscal year, I got to believe them in some way. And EB3, other workers, rest of the world. Gee, you're really close to, you're about a year off from November 2021, even on the dates for filing, because the dates for filing for the rest of the world, other workers are in 15 December 2020, meaning what have we been saying for the last fiscal year? That's the quarterly new Visa, the Visa Bulletins on the quarters are going to be more interesting. And I guess we'll maybe learn what, if anything, the dates for filing means at all anymore when we see the next quarter Visa Bulletin and we see what kind of movement is there, and does it afford any sort of movement of the dates for filing for these categories. Because I would think that the dates for filing should represent where it's going to go in the way things are going to go across the fiscal year. And if those things change greatly with the next quarter, the dates for filing for EB3, rest of the world, other workers, rest of the world, I would think that that there's something that's not quite right. That these dates for filing might be fluid throughout the year. I guess that's a fundamental question. Are these dates for filing going to be fluid throughout the year, or are they going to be, sort of just marching forward to catch up with the final action dates?
So a couple comments to follow up on Brian's.
Yeah.
So you have August until December is the window, right?
Yeah.
The final action date is August 2020, and the final action date is December 2020. And our gentleman here is looking for 2021. Yeah. So what that's telling me is that the government believed that the movement is going to be from August to December and not more.
During what period is
fiscal year?
You think during the fiscal year?
Yes, that's what I think.
Well, I see that bit on the end of the Visa Bulletin. They say possible movement on the quarters, and I'm going to be very curious to see what happens if those dates for filing can move on the quarters.
Yeah. Now remember, other workers are allocated only 10,000 green cards, only. So that is consistent with, if there's a big number, that the movement is slow. Let's take the next question from...
So a short answer for Fort Myers, I would say you will get a better idea as to what happens when you see the next Visa Bulletin. But based upon what we see right now, we don't give much optimism.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So from Hassan Ghanem, I'm documentarily qualified under EB3 rest of the world. Okay. Priority date is December 2022. When do you anticipate my priority date will become current? And thank you. Well, very similar to our friend that Mr. Ghanem is asking. Right now, obviously, we're seeing 2020, December 2020.
EB3, rest of the world, is it the first of December 2021. And, where does EB3, rest of the world dates for filing at? They're in 1st of January, 1st of February 2023. I don't know. I'd have to be a little bit more optimistic about that one, Sam.
Yeah,
EB3
and that's showing very aggressive.
Yeah, so for Hassan, the dates for filing, again, if we interpret them to mean what's going to happen during the fiscal year,
He should be in good shape.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that would be our answer. So sometime this year.
That's what they think.
That's what they think, and that's what we think they're putting here, because the dates for filing is really what's going to have to end up being transpiring this year.
They think the dates can get to that point in the year. Yeah.
All right. Shiva Varma for you, Brian.
Yes. I entered the USA using AP, and this travel doc is set to expire next week. Now I'm planning to travel to Mexico in December 2023 using closed loop cruise. Can I use automatic revalidation to come back on H-1B? Now, Sam.
So that's an interesting question. You can try. I don't think you will be able to do it. And the reason being is that a closed loop cruise normally is not departing the U.S. because you are in really transit in other countries. So you're not getting any visas from these countries. Normally, you're just basically in transit.
You're not exiting the United States is another way of saying it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're really not re-entering the U.S. You may be exiting, but we're splitting hair here. Yeah. But yeah, you're not re-entering. So I doubt that you will be able to use the automatic revalidation, but you can most certainly try.
Yeah, questions regarding I-94s and their expiration. That's the sort of thing where I'd like to call back to our sort of disclaimer about talking to an immigration attorney of your choosing. Now, as a general rule, there's a question we missed there. Mm-hmm. As a general rule, if you have a pending adjustment of status, you're permitted to stay in the United States during its pendency. But questions of I-94s are serious business, and thereby I would encourage you to talk to somebody.
To look at the documents. Somebody look at the documents. Yeah. JP, hi Sam. Do you have any analysis on the November 2012 EB3 or EB2 green card becoming current? Thanks for doing the live session. All right, so we talked about that here, I think, extensively, but we can talk about it one more time.
Yeah. So I presume country of chargeability is India, considering you're talking about November 2012.
Yeah, so right now we're in India. Yeah. January for final action date, January 2012, and May 2012 for right now. Yeah. And we are looking at whether or not sometime in November 2012.
Yeah, and so I go back to the dates for filing, and I see for EB2 India, 15th of May 2012, and EB3 India, 1st of August 2012, meaning, hey, those are before November, meaning for some period of time at least, the Department of State doesn't think that we're going to get to November. And again, I would say things might get interesting if we see the dates for filing leap forward along with the filing dates on the beginning of the next quarter of the fiscal year. That's going to be fun fact. The quarterly visa bulletins are going to be more interesting, and maybe you'll get some. It's possible there could be some hope there.
The government doesn't believe we're going to get there this year, but perhaps next year.
I don't know necessarily for sure that these dates for filing mean this year anymore. I think they mean based upon what they know. It could mean based. I want to see that the next quarter's visa bulletin in January.
We believe that the government doesn't believe that. I believe that the government doesn't believe that they will make it.
I believe that I don't give up. That I take every visa bulletin as it comes, and the year's not over until the year's over.
Shiva Varma. Second follow-up question. Can people on an expired AP come back to the U.S. using automatic revalidation and continue to work on EAD? Finally, thank you for support and great service to the community. You're welcome. So the question was changed whether or not he can come back on automatic revalidation if he has an expired advance parole. So it's an interesting question. We know people have done it successfully. One of the requirements is to be on a visa here in the U.S. and leave, and then use the automatic revalidation. If you are in the U.S. on advance parole, you're not on a visa. That is a minor technicality that we see overlooked a lot at the border. So it happens a lot, but it's not guaranteed. That would be my answer to his question.
I interpret this question entirely differently. Yeah. So I'm interpreting the question as, can I work on the EAD in this scenario? And if somebody comes back using automatic visa revalidation, automatic visa revalidation is for status. It puts you back in, automatic visa revalidation says, you get an H-1B or H-4 or whatever your non-immigrant status I-94. And if you're using that EAD is incompatible with your non-immigrant status. So meaning you can, but however, after you get admitted back to the country and you still have a pending adjustment of status, I suppose you can use that EAD, and well, you're allowed to do that because you have an EAD and you're allowed to stay pursuant to the pending adjustment of status.
And that's why don't rely on what we tell you based on these very short lines, because there's more than one interpretation to the
literally we have a half-hour conversation about this scenario.
Yeah.
Well, we have a half hour left and we have lots of questions, so we're going to keep it moving.
The blood still works.
All right.
I like it.
That's a good name.
Hello, thanks for bringing this video. It seems like F2B has been put on hold. F2B has not moved for almost 3 years. Any idea what's going on with F2B, Brian?
I can't fathom it because I know a very nice guy who is in that category, and as I recall, and F2B is unmarried sons and daughters of permanent residents. And it's kind of a little bit like, so it's just not moving. I can't fathom why. I can't fathom why it doesn't move. What doesn't help, Sam?
Well, I mean, we know why it doesn't move, Brian, because the demand is ridiculously outpaces visa availability.
Well, so the fact that it doesn't move, yeah. The fact that it doesn't move suggests that every time I think, because I got to think about whether it should move every now and again, right? And then they look at the inventory of cases. They say, oh, we have too many cases where we are right now. Shouldn't it move backwards then, Sam? Shouldn't it move backwards?
I think they've just turned their back on even predicting it.
Yeah, well, it's frustrating because I know somebody. I can think of somebody very specific in that category who's just kind of like left at a wow point, as I've been waiting for this, for a long time.
The problem with it too is obviously sons and daughters who are unmarried become married and they drop out.
Yeah.
Hey,
put your life on hold.
Yeah, and therefore I think the thought is if they hold it long enough, they can get rid of the whole category, probably, because
that seems evil.
Well, I mean, eventually, right? Everybody's going to get married.
Yeah.
So there is less interest in moving this forward. But I really don't have an insight for the blood still works beyond that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is very frustrating. MP. Brian, take it.
Okay. I have an improved I-140 EB1C while on L1A status. If I switch from L1A to H1B while keeping the same job role, can I maintain my I-140 status under EB1C? Yes?
I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah. It's a somewhat common thing for people to file for EB1C while they're on H1B status. If they, that scenario would be somebody worked as a manager outside the United States, came on took a lower role to come to the United States on H1B, made it back up to a managerial role.
Yep.
EB1C.
Absolutely. All right, Brian. So Amit Sinapati.
Yeah.
Hi, Sam. Advanced parole renewal in progress. I have a plan to travel. I-797 approval is still next year. All right. Never use advanced parole. Can I travel in this case and get visa stamp to return? Will it impact my pending 485? So the one thing here I see is never use advanced parole, and then renewal in progress. He doesn't say here that current advanced parole is valid, but I'm going to assume that current advanced parole is valid.
Yeah, maybe that's what he means by I-797 approval till next year, but I'm not sure the advanced parole comes actually on an I-797.
Probably does.
Most things do, I'm just not
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that the advanced parole is valid until next year, and the answer is simply yes. If your advanced parole is valid, you can certainly travel and then try a visa stamp for return. And if a visa stamp for return, for example, on H-1B or whatever, does not work, you can return on advanced parole, and as long as you return to the U.S. while the advanced parole is valid.
Critical, yes.
Yeah. Anything else, Brian?
No, I think that's good for me.
All right, sounds good. So Emily Marshall for you, Brian.
So can you explain why EB3 rest of the world filing date retrogressed with new visa plus extra? is in May was May 2023 with less green cards available. So I spent a little bit of time thinking about the movement. India, the most backlogged country, as something I talked about earlier, making great leaps, and the rest of the world, which has just only recently discovered the joy of the visa backlog, barely creeping forward, if at all. And that's, again, Emily, I don't really look at the dates for filing that much because I think they're cryptic and strange and they don't move in mysterious ways. But for me, my answer is the rest of the world, it's just doesn't seem to allow for much movement because USCIS, Department of State, I can imagine them being able to move the dates forward in great leaps and bounds for India, EB2, EB3, EB1, because they know they've gotten through most of the cases because the priority dates have already been there, right? When it comes to the EB3, EB2 rest of the world, I think they know there's a big density of cases and that they know if they move the priority dates for a week or for a month, they are going to get a ton of cases, and that's that. I think the density of the cases is there to require slow movement for the rest of the world at this point.
But why did they retrogress?
We
don't have an answer.
I don't have an answer.
We're just speculating.
And my honest answer is the dates for filing don't make sense. Dates for filing for India EB1 moved from 2022 to 2019, despite the fact that a 5-year forward in time on EB1. I choose to look at the final action dates, because I can imagine it's more or less clear to me what goes into them. The dates for filing, I have spent the last, fiscal year since this new person took over trying to figure out exactly when they move and what their relation. I know what they're supposed to be. I know what we're told in the past. I know what USCIS said in this FAQ. But I just can't seem to reconcile them with those statements with what the Visa Bulletin says on dates for filing on a regular basis.
Some of the date movement are not logical. And the fact that they're not logical, it doesn't mean, well, it can mean that the government is making mistakes.
Bad guesses, yeah.
The second thing possibility is now they have data available that leads to a different result.
Yeah.
And then the third one, Brian, is that they're changing their policy. They're looking at a different policy. And the fourth one, they don't know what they're doing.
So you said they have the data now, right? I can't help but think back to that FAQ on the USCIS website about are you guys aware of the issue? Can you track those duplicate cases? And I think to myself, it says yes we can. I wonder how long they've been able to do that, Sam. I wonder. They say they have a handle on it. I wonder how long they've had it. I admit this. They're not. I don't think.
Well, they're saying they're not significant. How can they not be significant?
I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, maybe that's a bit of unknowing. But I believe in them when they say they have a handle on it now. I wonder when they finally got a handle on it. Was it like last week?
Well, right. But here's the reality about when anybody answers.
I'm very tickled by this concept.
Yeah, anybody that says yes about knowledge, normally I believe the person that says no substantially more than the person that says yes in general.
Yeah.
Forget about the specifics. Why? A person that says, I don't know enough, this person has a realization of the vast amount of information that's out there that he has no visibility to, to which he has no visibility. Yeah. When somebody says, I know everything, that's when it tells me somebody does not know everything for a fact.
Well, yeah, that's
and that's a reality.
It's
a reality of life. So when USCIS told me that yes, they have visibility on it, with yes, period, like, oh, of course we do. What are you talking about? And then they say it's insignificant.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about the accuracy.
But yes, we can identify them, but I don't know if they're identifying all of them. And I think they just like had a contractor, put that function in, and then they said, guys, let's get an FAQ out. Now we can say we understand.
It's not significant. It is very significant. We know that. Not only do they not have, not only the duplicate, Brian, the duplicate is one problem. The other problem that they absolutely have no handle on is what about the number of people who have abandoned the path to green card in this country?
Yeah, how do they
pursuing Canada and going back home, pursuing other options.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, those are the people who are left in left waiting, and I-440 cases don't get closed out when people just leave the country.
The approximate number of non-immigrants on work visa that have left the U.S. in the last 3 years is 200,000 people. Okay, and that is a vast number of people who during COVID lost jobs or would decide to go home because of other family sickness or change their philosophy about life. A lot of people said, what am I doing here? What am I chasing? And moved on. It's a vast number of people. That number they have no handle on either.
Hey, you want to talk? You mentioned it, and there's one last USCIS FAQ that I wanted to bring up.
Bring it up.
You mentioned people losing jobs and leaving the country.
Yes,
and you asked.
We missed the, absolutely. Very critical point, Brian.
Yeah, so we've been talking for a while here. It's, hey, can I have large swaths of unemployment? Can I just not work while I have a pending adjustment of status? And basically the standard is you're supposed to have a job waiting for you when you get a green card approved. But we basically sit here going, I can't imagine that the average USCIS officer is going to like that you've been sitting on your butt not working until your green card's available. And amongst the FAQs, they answer this question: what do you think of periods of unemployment with a pending green card? And I'm really irritated by this FAQ, and I'll put it on the screen here for a minute for everybody.
That's a huge one for everybody. If you're listening, pay attention to this one.
However, starting here, a period of employment and occupational classification different from the prospective job or period of unemployment may affect a non-citizen's current immigration status, and this is the interesting part, and could raise doubts about the continued validity of the job offer and or the non-citizen's intention to accept the offer position after adjustment.
And that is a massive statement. This statement...
It confirms my paranoia that they think this way,
It doesn't confirm any paranoia, Brian. This is a shift. This is a shift, a massive shift in paradigm and approach by USCIS, that they're telling everybody that we may go after those people and deny I-140s or 485s.
Yeah, I mean, they do say in this FAQ that the non-citizen is not required to be employed while it's pending or to be eligible. You don't ever have to be employed by them. But on the other side, period of unemployment, or if you're not working for the employer, can
bring doubt as to the eligibility, and this is a huge one. So they're toying with the idea. This is typically when you see the tip of the iceberg. You don't know what's building underwater. Maybe nothing, but maybe a massive change in the way USCIS interprets these cases.
Well, maybe not. It's been a while since we've seen them. It's been a while since we've had like really long pending I-485s. But we used to get, I think like 2014, 15, 16. For people with long pending I-485s, RFEs saying, hey, tell us what you're doing. Tell us you're still employed.
Give us an update.
Yeah, give us an update. And if you can't give them a good update, it's donezo on the I-485.
It's withdrawing the I-485. Yeah. So they're feeling the heat. They're thinking that they would like to thin the cases in their warehouse by potentially issuing RFEs, requests for evidence, for cases that have been pending for quite some time, trying to show if there has been a period of unemployment. Now,
for the record, every time it's something just came up in my head, a couple of years ago when they wasted 60,000 green cards.
What about that?
Yeah, it really just irritates me when I think about the concept of them thinning out the herd,
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. All right. Bati Varun, Sam Bryan, when can we expect January 2014 to be current in final action date chart again?
I'm presuming you're looking at either India, EB2 or EB3, and I don't give that any sort of
reasonable timeline.
I don't either. I actually switched to my final action dates. I mean, the final action dates are in 2012, and per the FAQs that we were discussing earlier, USCIS says that they have cases in their inventory right now to cover the entire availability. I guess the age of those cases in the inventory, their priority dates does matter, but I don't give much chance of hitting 2014 January in the foreseeable future.
Yes. Mithun Banerjee.
Yeah.
Banerjee.
Yeah.
my priority date is August 2nd, 2012, EB3. Would there be any chance I can get a green card this fiscal year?
Oh, you have a fun date there, Mithun. So the dates for filing employment-based applications, say EB3 India, based upon I'm presuming India for 1st of August 2012.
So the answer is yes. There is a reasonable chance because this date, I mean, I'm conservative. I'm saying that the outlook is really within the fiscal year, that the date August 1st, 2012 will become current. But that's an estimate. So
again, my position is that could be quarterly. You may see that dates for filing go ahead and the final action dates go ahead on the quarter.
If this is quarterly, Brian, I'll buy you a can of pop from my dollars. That is a very, very optimistic timeline, just for our listeners. This date is not quarterly. This date is far-reaching. There has never been an interpretation less than 8 months. I mean, when what's his name was explaining it, they said it's an 8 to 10 months outlook.
Yes.
So I'm saying fiscal year, 8 to 10 months outlook, but not quarterly, Brian.
Well,
just to let you know.
And
I love your optimism.
My working theory is that these dates they were putting on here are a snapshot of the very moment they're at, and they will reevaluate everything the next time they have better information. Better information on a quarter would be more visa availability, and that may make them reevaluate these things.
Okay.
We will see.
Yes. I hope you're right.
I want that soda. I want something real opulent, real
what do you
strange.
like? Do you like Diet Coke or regular Coke?
So there's a regional ginger ale called ALE 81, a late one, and it's impossible to find. You're gonna have to go to like a gas station in the middle of nowhere to find it, and I'm just gonna have to send you on that task. You can probably order a case of it on Amazon, but
I will go there if you're right because it's gonna make a lot of people happy.
Okay.
Okay, so Mithun has a follow-up question. EAD green card and advanced parole is taking a long time. Absolutely no kidding. It's a big frustrating point for everybody.
For sure.
Would there be any estimate on the timeline for approval, Brian?
So a good basic bit of immigration advice, hit up the USCIS website. If you go to the USCIS website, on the right side of the main page, maybe about, you scroll about a page and a half down, you will find a set of 3 links. One of them will be, check processing times next to check my case status. If you go to check processing times, you tell them what service center, what type of filing, and what form, what specific type of
They know that, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what you do. I don't know if everybody knows this. I mean, we put in all of our filing emails, but
yeah, but filing 6 months in advance, would you file earlier?
If it's a green card, EAD/AD, it's for free. The worst they can do is send it back to you. You'll send another one.
Yes. Emily saying, anyone request a FOIA on 485 because yes, it's an estimate, but how can it be that they have a the filing date of May 2023 for 3 months with the green card?
So Emily was asking questions. Basically, how can, as I recall, it was how can it retrogress and not move forward? So one of those on my great FOIA wish list is give me your calculations for the Visa Bulletin, and it's the sort of thing where I just don't imagine getting a substantive answer that is
you got to go to
useful.
court on that one. Yes. And speaking of litigation, if you ever listen to or attend a court case in which an attorney explaining the regulatory guidelines and why the government broke the law in a claim of some sort, you'll be shocked how confused and uninformed the judges are when it comes. I think that one is pending, HF. The judges are, and they don't understand that litigation is such a difficult path. So FOIA litigation will confuse judges even more. HF,
yes.
Hi, how long is medical valid for?
Still, I just checked it while you were talking there on the USCIS website. They say it's generally held valid for 2 years after the date signed by the civil surgeon and the doctor that performed it. Yeah. So, would USCIS ask for medicals again, as it's been a few years almost? It is fully possible that they could waste your time, and even with your priority date not current, they could say, give us another medical exam, because they could be looking for reasons to, you know what, if you don't respond to that RFE, they can deny the case. If some sort of terrible medical issue
They will be so heavily criticized if they do that.
Yeah.
If they do that,
first.
Yeah, they will receive an avalanche of anger from the attorney bar, from Congress, from everybody. They're not going to ask, I don't believe, for a medical when the visa availability, in their good faith opinion, will not be current in the next 2 years. Yeah. But can they be stupid and do it?
Yeah.
This Biden USCIS will not do it. Future presidents, I can't
Still on
guarantee.
this question.
I cannot guarantee.
Yeah. So, go ahead. PR. Hi, Sam and Brian. I will become current in the EB1A priority date 2013. Congratulations. The I-45 processing times are so long that I'm concerned about retrogression. How much time should elapse between one can think about delay litigation on an I-45, presumably?
So delay litigation, we discussed it. As a matter of fact, I have a consultation with somebody tomorrow on that. Delay litigation, in my opinion, you have to have a record of visa availability and retrogression at least one time. Otherwise, it will not be a valid delay litigation, or at least from a judge perspective.
Well, yeah, I imagine the government coming in, we're doing the best we can. Everybody, this person and everybody else is in line. We're approving them as fast as.
But if you've had a one experience of delayed litigation, then you may have a case.
Fundamentally, I guess you're dealing with a judge who doesn't really understand, immigration backlogs, and you want to go in that court and tell them a good story.
Yeah.
That's a good story. I agree. That's a far more compelling case than my date's current. They're eligible.
Please go ahead and approve it. You didn't approve it in 24 hours. I'm suing.
Yeah.
It's going to make you look.
And the government comes. Oh yeah, we're going to approve it. We're going to approve it, Judge. We have all the. It just became current. That's the narrative that I worry about coming out of the other side.
And we have to be fair to everybody else. They have 1,780,000 cases ahead of him that filed ahead of him. We're going to get to him in 15 years, Your Honor.
And that's the part they say we're going to get to. We're going to get these cases in the order in which they're received. Just because he wants to,
But if there is, two things. Number one, it was available and retrogressed. 1, 2, obviously pointing to evidence of approving people with priority date after you. First, last time, and over, passing you also gives a good basis for litigation. Mr. Gupta, hi. That you for the incredible work you do. Oh, thank you. Okay, you're welcome. My case, Indian National, International Medicine Physician. Yes, sir. EB1B approved with I-45 filed in July of 2023.
Internal medicine guy, yeah.
Internal medicine physician, yes. I think I should be putting my glasses on. Used March 2019. Priority date from prior EB2 approval. Okay. I have 3 questions. Question number 1, can I change my current job to part-time while the green card EAD? This would be to pursue further education or for working part-time for a medical tech company. We just had a statement from USCIS that says,
if you're not working for the employer, or let alone you leave your field, we could question whether or not you're intending to take that permanent offer of employment.
Yeah, so I think it depends on the circumstances and the facts. You have to be very cautious and careful. I think what I would do if I'm an attorney is I'm going to tell you, tell me a story. Tell me who you're working for. Tell me how many hours you're going to reduce it. Tell me for how long. What are you going to be pursuing, and why reducing your hours pursuing this education enhances your career, the same you apply for the green card, and why reducing your hours is necessary. And then you have to convince me and make me feel good. And if I feel good, I would say yes.
I like all those questions, but I'm going to ask, my last question would be, what does your employer sponsor think about it,
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. If they don't like it, yeah.
Can I apply for EB1A with 485 while EB1 India filing date is still July 2019? If so, then typically till which months does USCIS let people use the filing date instead of the final action date? Brian.
So, if you're applying, there's lots of, I think there's a lot of small questions here. You can file an EB-1A I-140 at any time, right? Can you file an I-485 based upon that? Only when your priority date is current, or USC or final action dates are filing, whatever USCIS is accepting. And that's kind of it. I think the question is, for how long are they going to accept final action dates? The kind of established norm for October's, at least, has been to accept it for October, and I think that's never guaranteed. There's a reason why I reported at the beginning of this presentation, and I think, honestly, all bets are off past October. I don't count your eggs until they're hatched.
Yep. And third is a question / statement / opinion / question.
Okay.
Based on number of approved EB2 India, I-140 is in line with old priority date and the high number that are switching to EB1. I think EB1 India will not get to March 2019 in the next 10 to 20 years. Am I wrong?
My first answer is, so when I think about this, I think my counterpoint is not that many people are eligible for EB1 in general.
Yeah. I think you're wrong.
EB1A is really hard to do, and EB1Cs aren't common. Same thing for the EB1 B.
Yes, we disagree. Respectfully, Mr. Gupta. All right. Uday, sing for you, Brian.
EB2 for India, March 30th, 2012. Will it be current in 2024? So I'm gonna EB2, India. I'm gonna go back to my dates for filing. I'm gonna hold my thumb on my final action. I'm gonna go to. I'm gonna look at the Visa Bulletin. That's what I'm gonna do. Sure. So EB2 India is in January 2012. Final action date right now, and EB2 India is in May of 2012 for dates for filing right now. Even on Sam's more conservative interpretations versus my, let's say, more hopeful ones, more optimistic to see what the rest of the next January Visa Bulletin holds, we're looking at, yes, it seems that's what USCIS, it seems what the Department of State thinks, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Brian, with that, we reach our time. Unfortunately, we had fun. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for listening to us. We were hoping to bring better October Visa Bulletin news, but I think it was in line with what we expected.
Yeah.
You guys have a great week until next Monday at 6 o'clock. We'll come back here and talk